June 15, 1944. Forward Operating Base, Manus Island, Admiralty Islands. Commander Hamilton Haynes stood on the dock watching the USS England glide toward her berth, hull number DE-635 clearly visible on her gray bow. 6 submarines in 12 days. How is that even possible? The England was not an impressive vessel by any measure. A Buckley-class destroyer escort displacing 1,400 tons, roughly 1/4 less than a standard Fletcher-class destroyer. Her crew numbered just 186 officers and men. 3 3-inch guns, a handful of depth-charge racks, and mounted forward the squat, ungainly Hedgehog anti-submarine mortar system. Yet, this humble warship had just accomplished something no aircraft carrier, battleship, or submarine had ever achieved. Between May 19 and May 31, 1944, the England had systematically hunted down and destroyed 6 Japanese submarines: I-16, Row 106, Row 104, Row 116, Row 108, and Row 105. 6 confirmed kills, 12 days, 1 ship. As Haynes watched Lieutenant Commander Walton B. Pendleton guide his ship alongside, he understood he was witnessing naval history. The England had been named for Ensign John Charles England, a sailor killed at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Now that name would become legendary. Not for tragedy, but for the most devastating anti-submarine warfare ever recorded. The real question wasn't whether the England had done it, the question was how. Other destroyer escorts in Haynes's Escort Division 39 had the same equipment, the same training, the same intelligence. The George, the Raby, the Spangler, the Hazelwood all had attacked these same submarines. They had fired Hedgehogs, dropped depth charges, pursued contacts for hours. And they had failed. The England succeeded every single time. The journey to this extraordinary achievement had begun 6 months earlier, when the USS England was commissioned on December 10, 1943, at the San Francisco Naval Shipyard. She was one of hundreds of destroyer escorts being mass-produced to address the U-boat threat in the Atlantic and the submarine menace in the Pacific. The Buckley-class destroyer escorts were economy warships by design. At 306 feet long and 1,400 tons displacement, they cost roughly 1/3 as much as a full-size destroyer and required half the crew. The England mounted 3 3-inch 50-caliber guns, 3 21-inch torpedo tubes, 8 20mm anti-aircraft guns, and a British-designed weapon system called the Hedgehog, a spigot mortar that fired 24 projectiles in a circular pattern ahead of the ship. Lieutenant Commander Walton B. Pendleton assumed command with Executive Officer Lieutenant John A. Williamson as his second. Williamson, a Naval Academy graduate, would prove to be the tactical genius behind the England's success. During workup exercises off San Diego in early 1944, Williamson drilled the crew relentlessly on anti-submarine procedures. Sonar men John Prock and Roger Bernhardt spent hundreds of hours tracking practice targets, learning to distinguish submarine echoes from thermal layers, schools of fish, and underwater terrain. The Hedgehog system required precision teamwork. Unlike depth charges that detonated at preset depths regardless of accuracy, Hedgehog projectiles contained contact fuses. They exploded only when they struck a submarine's hull. Each projectile carried a 35-pound Torpex explosive charge. Fired in a circular pattern with a 130-foot diameter, the 24 projectiles bracketed the target area. Even a single hit could be catastrophic to a submerged submarine. The England departed San Diego on February 6, 1944, bound for Pearl Harbor and eventually the Southwest Pacific. She arrived at Espiritu Santo in the New Hebrides on March 21, joining Escort Division 39 under Commander Hamilton Haines. Throughout April 1944, the England conducted convoy escort and patrol duties, gaining experience in the operational theater, but encountering no enemy submarines. That changed on May 18th. Fleet Radio Unit Pacific, FRUPAC, the Navy's code-breaking center at Pearl Harbor, had intercepted and decoded a message from Japanese submarine I-16 dated May 13. The transmission revealed I-16's scheduled rice delivery mission to Japanese troops at Buin on the southern coast of Bougainville. More critically, FRUPAC had cracked the entire Japanese submarine deployment plan. Admiral Soamu Toyota, Commander-in-Chief of the Imperial Japanese Navy Combined Fleet, had positioned 7 submarines from the 7th Submarine Squadron in a picket line stretching 500 miles southeast from Truk to the Admiralty Islands. These submarines, I-16, RO-106, RO-104, RO-116, RO-108, RO-105, and RO-117 were to provide early warning of American fleet movements toward the Mariana Islands. What Toyota didn't know was that American codebreakers had read his deployment orders. Task Group 22.10, comprising the England, George, and Raby under Commander Haines, received orders to hunt down the picket line submarines. FRUPAC provided search coordinates within 50 miles of each submarine's expected position. The hunt was on. The England made first contact with submarine I-116 at 13:28 on the afternoon of May 19, 1944, approximately 180 miles northeast of Bougainville. Sonarman John Prock reported a solid contact at 1,000 yards. Lieutenant Williamson maneuvered the England into attack position. The first Hedgehog salvo missed, so did the second, and the third, and the fourth. I-16's commanding officer demonstrated skill and nerve, attempting to evade by following directly in the England's wake where sonar tracking was most difficult. Prock maintained contact through the submarine's maneuvers. On the 5th attack run, Williamson brought the England across I-16's position at precisely the right angle. 24 Hedgehog projectiles arced through the air and splashed into the sea. 4 to 6 detonations followed in rapid succession. The crew felt the shock waves through the England's hull. Debris and oil rose to the surface. I-16 and her entire crew of 101 officers and men went down in 1,200 fathoms of water. First kill. 3 days later, on May 22nd, the England detected R-106 at coordinates provided by FRUPAC. This time, Williamson needed only 1 attack run. 6 Hedgehog detonations at 8:30. R-106 sank with all hands, 56 crew members lost. Second kill. The next day, May 23, FRUPAC directed the task group to a new search area. At 01:38, the England sonar detected R-104. 2 attack runs. Multiple Hedgehog hits at 02:10. R-104 descended into the depths, another 56 crew members dead. Third kill in 5 days. By now, the pattern was becoming clear to Commander Haines and the other ships in the task group. The England wasn't just lucky. Williamson's attack procedures, Prock's sonar techniques, and the crew's confidence were creating a lethal anti-submarine warfare machine. On May 24th, the England found row 116. 1 Hedgehog salvo at 7:21. Multiple detonations. The submarine broke apart, killing all 56 crew. Fourth kill. Other ships were starting to notice. When the task group detected R-108 on May 26, the destroyer Hazelwood made the initial attack. No hits. The England moved in. At 0431, Williamson executed a textbook Hedgehog attack, 6 detonations. R-108 went down with 56 more Japanese submariners. 5th kill in 8 days. The Japan's 7th Submarine Squadron picket line was being systematically destroyed by a single American destroyer Escort displacing 1,400 tons. The strategic implications were staggering. Without submarine reconnaissance, Admiral Toyota would be blind to American fleet movements as Operation Forager, the invasion of the Mariana Islands, approached. But the advantage depended entirely on Frupac's intelligence and the England's ability to convert that intelligence into confirmed kills. And there was one submarine left, R-105. The hunt for Row 105 would reveal exactly how exceptional the England's performance truly was. On May 30, 1944, Frupac provided search coordinates for the final submarine in the picket line. The task group, now including destroyers Hazelwood and McCord and destroyer escorts George, Raby, and Spangler, converged on the area. At 12:14, sonar contact, Row 105. What followed was a brutal 25-hour pursuit that would demonstrate the vast gulf between competent anti-submarine warfare and the England's level of mastery. The destroyer Hazelwood attacked first with depth charges. Pattern after pattern exploded at various depths. No confirmed hits. The submarine survived. The destroyer Escort George made multiple Hedgehog attacks throughout the afternoon of May 30. All missed. The Raby tried next. More Hedgehog salvos. No detonations. The Spangler joined the attack. Hedgehog after Hedgehog splashed into the water. The submarine continued evading. Through the night of May 30-31, Row 105's commanding officer demonstrated exceptional skill. He used rapid depth changes, diving deep, then rising quickly. He released oil slicks and debris to simulate a kill. He executed fishtail maneuvers to throw off sonar tracking. He hid in thermal layers, where temperature differences scattered sonar pulses. By dawn on May 31, the American ships had made 16 separate Hedgehog attacks and numerous depth charge runs. 25 hours of continuous pursuit. 0 confirmed hits. Commander Haynes, frustrated beyond measure, finally sent an exasperated radio message that would become legendary in U.S. Navy anti-submarine warfare history. "Oh hell, go ahead, England." Lieutenant Williamson maneuvered the England into position. Sonarman Proc confirmed solid contact. At 0736, the Hedgehog fired. 6 to 10 detonations rippled across the water. At 0741, exactly 5 minutes later, a massive explosion erupted beneath the surface as Row 105's battery compartment detonated. Large pieces of debris, including parts of the submarine's pressure hull, floated to the surface. Row 105 and her 56-man crew were gone. 6th submarine. 12 days, 1 ship. The other ships in the task group couldn't understand it. They had the same equipment. They had the same intelligence. They had made attack after attack with no success. The England had succeeded with a single salvo. When Destroyer Escort Commander Lieutenant Commander J.H. Thorwall was asked by Rear Admiral Samuel Eliot Morrison, the Navy's official historian, "How do you do it?" Thorwall's response captured the England's quiet confidence. Personnel and equipment worked with the smoothness of well-oiled clockwork. But that simple statement masked extraordinary complexity. The England's success wasn't luck or magic. It was the result of specific, repeatable techniques that other crews simply hadn't mastered. To understand why the England succeeded where others failed requires understanding the revolutionary nature of the Hedgehog system and the tactical doctrine Lieutenant Williamson had developed. The Hedgehog had been designed by the British Royal Navy in 1941 as a response to fundamental problems with conventional depth charges. Depth charges detonated at preset depths whether they hit the target or not. The explosions created massive turbulence that disrupted sonar contact for several minutes, forcing attacking ships to regain contact before making another run. This gave submarines time to maneuver and escape. The Hedgehog solved this problem through contact fuses. Each of the 24 projectiles carried 35 pounds of Torpex explosive, roughly equivalent to 45 pounds of TNT. The projectiles were fired in a circular pattern with a 130-foot diameter, falling approximately 250 yards ahead of the attacking ship. If they missed, which they did most of the time, they sank harmlessly to the ocean floor without exploding. Sonar contact remained uninterrupted. If even one projectile struck the submarine's hull, the resulting explosion would often be catastrophic. The mathematics were brutally simple. A submarine's pressure hull presented a target approximately 200 feet long and 20 feet in diameter. The Hedgehog's 130-foot circular pattern, fired from the correct position and angle, could bracket that target with multiple projectiles. But achieving that perfect position required exceptional sonar work and ship handling. This is where Williamson's tactical innovations proved decisive. First, he had trained Prock and Bernhardt to maintain continuous sonar contact through the submarine's evasive maneuvers. Most sonar men lost contact when submarines executed rapid depth changes or course alterations. Prock developed a technique of leading the target, predicting where the submarine would be rather than tracking where it was, that maintained contact through even violent evasions. Second, Williamson standardized the England's attack geometry. Rather than approaching from random angles, he brought the England in on specific attack runs that maximized the probability of Hedgehog hits given the submarine's known course and speed. This required precise ship handling and split-second timing. Third, and most critically, Williamson had drilled the entire attack sequence until it became automatic. From initial sonar contact to final Hedgehog firing, every crew member knew exactly what to do without requiring orders. The helmsman knew the turn rates. The engine room knew the speed changes. The Hedgehog crew knew the firing timing. The soundman knew the tracking techniques. The destroyer escort George had competent crews. So did the Raby, the Spangler, and the Hazelwood. But competence isn't mastery. The England's crew had practiced their procedures until they could execute them perfectly under combat stress in rough seas against an enemy commander doing everything possible to survive. The choice to achieve this level of proficiency had required months of intensive training that began in San Diego and continued throughout the England's deployment. Williamson had sacrificed crew rest, shore leave, and routine maintenance time to conduct exercise after exercise after exercise. Other ships had conducted standard training. Williamson had demanded excellence. And when Commander Haynes directed, "Oh hell, go ahead, England," after 25 hours of failed attacks, that investment in training paid the ultimate dividend. The destruction of the Japanese 7th Submarine Squadron's picket line had immediate and devastating strategic consequences. On June 15, 1944, exactly 15 days after the England sank Row 105, American forces landed on Saipan in the Mariana Islands. Admiral Toyoda's combined fleet, lacking submarine reconnaissance, had no early warning of the massive American fleet approaching. The Japanese Navy sailed into the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, at a severe intelligence disadvantage. Japanese naval aviation was destroyed. 3 fleet carriers were sunk. The Imperial Japanese Navy never recovered. The England's 12-day Rampage had directly contributed to this outcome. But the toll on Japanese submariners had been catastrophic on a more personal level. 6 submarines destroyed meant 381 officers and men killed. I-16 alone carried 101 crew members, including specialists in communications, navigation, and torpedo warfare. The Roe-class submarines each carried 56 men, cramped into pressure holes barely 190 feet long. Death in a submarine is particularly terrible. When Hedgehog projectiles detonated against pressure holes at depths exceeding 200 feet, the results were instantaneous and catastrophic. The explosive force ruptured the hull. Seawater at crushing pressure blasted through compartments faster than men could react. Some submarines broke apart immediately. Others flooded and sank slowly enough that crew members knew they were dying. The England's crew understood this. When Hedgehog detonations confirmed a kill, there were no celebrations. Professionalism, yes. Satisfaction at a job done correctly, certainly. But no cheering or celebration. The men of the England knew they were sending other sailors to awful deaths in dark water. Japanese submarine doctrine had emphasized aggressive attacks and willingness to sacrifice for strategic objectives. Submarine commanders were expected to maintain their patrol stations even when under attack, reporting enemy positions until the last possible moment. This doctrine helped the England. Japanese submarines often remained in their assigned areas rather than fleeing when American forces approached. On June 19, 1944, Admiral Ernest King, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Navy, received the full report on the England's performance. King, normally parsimonious with praise, was moved to issue a statement that would define the ship's legacy. There will always be an England in the U.S. Navy. The England received the Presidential Unit Citation, the highest award given to Navy units. The citation specifically noted the 6 enemy submarines destroyed in successive attacks, and credited the skill, determination, and valor of the officers and crew. But awards and citations couldn't change a fundamental reality. The England had demonstrated that properly trained crews using the right technology with accurate intelligence could dominate submarine warfare to a degree previously thought impossible. British anti-submarine forces had achieved impressive results in the Atlantic. HMS Starling, commanded by Captain Frederick John Walker, sank 6 U-boats during a 19-day period in early 1944, an achievement that earned Walker legendary status in the Royal Navy. The England had matched that in 12 days. No other ship in World War II would approach this record. The England herself would never duplicate it. After the extraordinary May 1944 performance, the England continued anti-submarine patrols, shore bombardment, and convoy escort duties for the remainder of the war. She encountered enemy submarines, but never again had the combination of circumstances, intelligence, opportunity, and enemy deployment that had created the 12-day streak. The USS England's final accounting reveals a ship that served with distinction throughout the Pacific War, but never again achieved the concentrated success of May 1944. Production statistics for Buckley-class destroyer escorts show 154 ships completed between 1943 and 1945. The England was hull number DE-635, one of 46 constructed at Bethlehem Steel's San Francisco yard. Standard displacement was 1,400 tons. Full load displacement reached 1,740 tons. Overall length measured 306 feet. The main armament consisted of 3 3-inch 50-caliber guns, 3 21-inch torpedo tubes, 1 Hedgehog spigot mortar system, and 8 depth charge projectors. The Hedgehog system could fire 24 projectiles to a range of 250 yards. Each projectile measured 7 inches in diameter and weighed 65 pounds total, with a 35-pound Torpex warhead. The circular impact pattern measured 130 feet in diameter. Contact fuses detonated only on impact with solid objects. Critically important because non-detonation meant sonar contact remained undisturbed. Crew complement totaled 186 officers and enlisted men, 15 officers and 171 enlisted. Living conditions aboard destroyer escorts were cramped but adequate. Unlike the larger destroyers, DEs had no separate wardroom for junior officers. Combat Information Center was small but functional. Engineering spaces were tightly packed with diesel engines and generators. After the May 1944 submarine hunting operation, the England continued operations throughout the Southwest Pacific. She participated in the Leyte Gulf landings in October 1944, providing anti-submarine screening for invasion forces. She conducted shore bombardment at Lingayen Gulf in January 1945. She participated in the Okinawa campaign from April through June 1945. On May 9, 1945, a Japanese kamikaze aircraft crashed into the England off Okinawa. The suicide plane struck the port side of the superstructure, killing 37 crew members and wounding 25 others. The England survived, was repaired at Kuramareto, and returned to service before the war ended. Comparative analysis with Allied anti-submarine performance shows the England's achievement in context. U.S. Navy ships sank 77 Japanese submarines during World War II. The England accounted for 6, nearly 8% of the total, achieved in 12 days by a single ship. British anti-submarine forces sank 245 German U-boats in the Atlantic, but no single ship approached the England's concentrated success rate. American destroyer escort design philosophy emphasized crew survivability through damage control features, adequate armor protection for critical systems, and compartmentation to prevent single hits from sinking the ship. The England survival of the kamikaze strike validated this approach. The ship remained afloat and operational despite devastating damage that killed over 20% of her crew. Survivor testimony from England crew members who lived into the 21st century emphasized the exceptional leadership of Lieutenant Williamson and the skill of soundmen Prock and Bernhardt. In interviews conducted by naval historians in the 1980s and 1990s, crew members consistently credited intensive training and teamwork for the May 1944 success, never attributing it to luck or enemy incompetence. The England was decommissioned on October 15, 1945, after VJ Day. She was placed in reserve at Mare Island Naval Shipyard. Unlike many destroyer escorts that were scrapped immediately post-war, the England remained in reserve until 1955, when she was finally sold for scrap. The philosophical difference between the England success and Japanese submarine doctrine reveals fundamental strategic contrasts. American anti-submarine warfare emphasized technology, Hedgehog, intelligence, FRUPAC codebreaking, training, intensive crew preparation, and tactical innovation, Williamson's attack procedures. Japanese submarine doctrine emphasized individual courage, surprise attacks, and acceptance of high losses for strategic gains. One approach dominated. The other failed catastrophically. June 15, 1944. Forward Operating Base, Manus Island. Commander Hamilton Haines stood on the dock as the USS England completed mooring. He had witnessed something unprecedented in naval warfare history. When Admiral King declared, "There will always be an England in the U.S. Navy," he was acknowledging that this small destroyer escort had redefined what was possible in anti-submarine warfare. For almost 81 years, from May 1944 to the present day, no ship has matched the England's record of 6 submarine kills in a single combat operation. The final irony of the England story is that she was never supposed to achieve anything exceptional. Destroyer escorts were mass-produced economy warships designed for routine convoy protection and anti-submarine patrol. They were cheaper, slower, less heavily armed versions of real destroyers, the workhorses that would free fleet destroyers for more important missions. But the England proved that technological mastery, intelligence superiority, crew excellence, and tactical innovation matter infinitely more than size, speed, or firepower. A 1,400-ton destroyer escort with 186 crew members accomplished what no battleship, aircraft carrier, or fleet submarine has ever matched. The lesson extends far beyond World War II anti-submarine warfare. The England's success demonstrated that properly trained personnel, using the right technology with accurate intelligence, can achieve decisive dominance regardless of platform limitations. The ship wasn't impressive. The technology wasn't revolutionary. The intelligence was important but not unique. Other ships received the same information. What made the difference was human excellence multiplied by preparation. Lieutenant Williamson's relentless drilling, Soundman Proc's innovative techniques, the crew's absolute confidence in their procedures, Commander Haynes's willingness to direct, "Oh hell, go ahead, England," after other ships had failed. These human factors transformed adequate equipment into overwhelming capability. The USS England was not a lucky ship. She was not a superweapon. She was a standard Buckley-class destroyer escort that achieved the impossible because her crew made excellence routine. And in that single fact lies the entire story of why the England's record stands unbroken after 8 decades, and why it likely will remain unbroken forever. Modern anti-submarine warfare involves aircraft, nuclear submarines, sophisticated sonar arrays, and networked sensors. No single surface ship will ever again have the opportunity to hunt submarines with the England's concentrated intensity. The record is closed. 6 submarines in 12 days. May 19 through May 31, 1944. USS England DE 635. There will always be an England in the U.S. Navy.